So we've got, in particular, I'm interested in talking with you about the procrastinators, where you said it's more emotional and there's some things going on in the gut, so to speak. And then we have the people who think and think and think without acting. I can see both of these issues coming up a lot for students taking the LSAT, those who never get around to studying because they can't bring themselves to do it because of anxiety. And then we have people who get bogged down and they keep overthinking LSAT problems without actually being able to choose an answer and let go and move on. So I'm interested in your recommendations, either medication related or non-medication related, for how to handle this.
Okay, well, let's first of all, once a person identifies the fact that they do have an encumbrance, they have too much going on cognitively, the medication array is remarkably deep. I mean, the opportunities are terrific. And you know as well as I do, and it was in some of the remarks that you had in the preparation for this conversation, people do abuse medications. They use medications capriciously. Hey, let me borrow a little of this and see how it goes and do whatever. Now, just to quickly address that point, I think that medications do help. They are quite useful if you know what you're doing. And there are two things you have to know what you're doing. One is what the target is that you're shooting at. This makes totally common sense. What is the target you're shooting at? What do you want to correct? And then how do you actually dose the medication effectively so that you have a predictable outcome and you don't walk into that LSAT with like 52 pickup because you did, too much medication at the last moment and you took it on this and you had no awareness of really what was going on. And by the way, you forgot to have breakfast, so that blew you out the top of the window. And then you're in there you can't actually think because the medications have actually distorted your perceptions of what's going on, which everybody on this call knows you can do if you take the medications incorrectly. So to answer your question in a more succinct way, if a person has a problem, my absolutely firm, strong recommendation is, number one, find a professional who knows what they're doing. If they're good, don't get your family practitioner. Most family practitioners, I love them to death. They're great because we work together as a team. They'll take my advice, but they'll like, hey, try this. Let me know if it works. I'll talk to you later. They don't have any internal criteria about what's expected in the medication. And to just hit the medication expectation thing a little bit, if the presentation of the individual is thinking without acting, or I'm not going to think, I'm not going to act, I'll get to it in a minute, I got too much on my mind right now, just a second, let me think about this, let me think about that, I can't decide right now. Either one of those two presentations, which are by far the most prominent presentations in all of executive function land, hyperactive is not the main presentation, my friends. So if you get those two guys squared away, then the only way you can do that is to get the correct medication. Not every medication works the same way for everybody. The complexity of this is a problem because human beings are all different. I mean, Steve, I'm different from you. You're different from me. You might be able to take one medication. I couldn't take that same medication because you just have a different somatic complex. Your brain is different. Your body is different. We don't know what your liver is going to do with the medication. We don't know what my brain is going to do with that medication. So we have to be respectful of every single person that's taking a medication. Be clear on target recognition. And here's what one should expect. And I'm going to summarize this. I've got it on a number of different modules. I mean, the easiest thing for a person, if I'm going too fast for them, is just go over to my YouTube channel because I've got more videos than anybody in the country out there on how to do this. So, if you get swamped with this, just go to, the channel over there is Dr. Charles Parker, all one word. And you just go right over there and take a look at it and work your way through. I've got the playlist set on the front page so you can actually see what the diagnosis is, see what you're actually treating from a diagnostic point of view, then getting the dosage right, and then looking at the different impediments that would interfere with the dosage. It's all spelled out there, black and white. It's all complimentary. It's sitting out there on YouTube. But to summarize it real quickly for your listeners, each of the medications has a specific, because they are stimulant medications, they have a specific duration of effectiveness, DOE, that should work well. And that is how you stay within the boundaries and the parameters. What happens is, if your body or my body is metabolizing the medication on some kind of an odd rate, which makes it either too fast or too slow, a too fast metabolism would require more medication because it's all going to dissipate so quickly. A too slow metabolism would mean a little bit would take you longer than it should. You have to be very careful to keep the dose low so you don't blow the person out the top of the therapeutic window. So that therapeutic window has different characteristics. It can be like a very narrow therapeutic window based on metabolic disarray. A little bit doesn't work and a little more is too much. That's a narrow therapeutic window. You can have what's called a roving therapeutic window. You get the medication on board and it worked this way today, but it works differently tomorrow, and then it works differently the next day. And you have an unpredictable where you feel like, pardon the metaphor, but you feel like you're chasing your tail out in the woods, like a hunting dog. you can't find out where you are. I mean, I think there are rabbits out here in the woods, but I'm so busy chasing my tail, I don't know what's going on. So that whole duration of effectiveness is a big thing, and I'll just say a couple quick words about it. The extended duration of the extended medications, the XR medications, do obviously, quite obviously, that's why they call them extended release, they last longer. And they last longer because they're built to last longer. And if you want me to tell more about that, we can talk about that in a minute. The immediate release is, in my opinion, a great place to start, because then you can tell what's going to happen with the duration. Now, if a person were to capriciously take a medication before they went into the LSAT, like, hey, all this stuff, I don't know if I've got it or not, but I sure know if I take a stimulant medication, I can do pretty well. Well, that's fine. The only problem is, my strong recommendation is they have some clear awareness before going into the LSAT what the duration of effectiveness of that medication is for them, or else they'll go in there and they'll be in there for 2 or 3 hours and then they'll be out the window because they had a good duration for what would be the immediate release is about 3 to 4, 5 hours maybe, but the test's longer than that. And so then you have to figure out what the dosage is, what the duration of effectiveness is. You want, as a person, you want to go in prepared. That's why I say get a good person who knows what they're doing, a professional, help you dial it in correctly for your body metabolic rate. And then you'll go in there and you don't have to worry about it. Am I going to live or die? Maybe this thing's not going to work. Maybe it will work. I don't know what's going on. And you won't feel so preoccupied and be distracted by what the medication itself is doing, because you'll have some preparatory activities already under your belt.
So this is something, what you're saying is you'd want to test it out, hopefully at least a couple of times before the actual LSAT test date. And you'd want to calibrate the dosage specifically for someone with your unique metabolism and characteristics. And so your YouTube playlist or consulting with a professional such as yourself, not the general practitioner, in order to get a sense of what's going to be right for you. I'm hearing from you that everyone's kind of different with this, and it's not a one size fits all.
It is absolutely true. What you said is absolutely true. And it's really that everybody is different. I approach every single person that walks in my office as a completely brand new clean slate. No matter, they can be enormously overweight. They can be morbidly obese. They can be skinny as a rail. They can be 9 years old. They can be 65. All of those assumptions that people make based on body size, age, in fact, people make assumptions based on gender, are out the window, out the window. Every single person must be customized, because if they aren't, they will be surprised. And I know because I've surprised myself so many times.